SNK is a legendary game company that produced wonderful games for the arcade and the Neo Geo. But how did they do with Nintendo's original gray box? I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I count down the top 10 SNK games for the NES.
Second Opinion Games.
Number 10, Athena. Now, Athena is the goddess of wisdom, but she's also a war god, which is why your main motivation for playing this game is the fact that she got bored one day and decided to kill, like, everything that stands in her way. And that's why she left her boring old castle in order to go on a murdering spree. Now, first, when you start the game, you just have your foot in sandals to be able to smash everything in the dust, but it won't be long before you pick up a hammer and then start bashing rocks open to maybe find a helmet that allows you to break open more rocks Super Mario Bros. Style. There's also some armor upgrades, and you could even pick up a sword or a ball and chain. Occasionally, you could even come across a bow and arrow, which is really weak against things like your regular enemies, but do a great job against boss battles. Now, when you pick up a sword, you can't smash open rocks and get more upgrades, but you can kill enemies easier. So, luckily, they continuously throw the upgrades at you non-stop, and you'll constantly be switching back and forth between your good weapon and bad ones in order to keep the balance well. Now, later on in the game, there are some flight levels and some mermaid levels, but it starts off pretty darn well. Most people consider this to be an average game, but the sound is so horrible. This music just degrates on your ears, and the controls are a bit stiff, but if you can appreciate it for what it is, then give it a try. At number 9, we have Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf, also known as just Fighting Golf. But don't worry, there's no actual fighting in this game, and there's no Lee Trevino. Whoever the heck that is, I guess he won the Skins game in 1987 and was quickly forgotten about by history. Now, my normal role with sports games in general is that the more time you put into them, the more you will like them. And this is a completely serviceable golf game. It plays exactly how you would expect, being able to switch back and forth between the different clubs, trying to keep it on the fairway and not too far in the rough, tons of different camera angles to keep you involved, a little bit of showing where the curves are on the green, even if I can't actually figure out what any of these symbols mean, and it's just a serviceable golf game. But one of the things I do like about it is that a little bit of your character's personality shines through when you make a really tough shot, or if you just happen to miss. If you happen to love golf and the NES, you certainly can do worse, but you might not be able to do any better because this is one of the better golf games for the console. Number 8, Alfa Mission. This is similar to Xevious in the style where you can fire and also drop bombs or missiles that go all the way across the screen, but they're a bit slower. Now, you better have your turbo buttons ready because this is a more difficult game. If you happen to die, you go all the way back to the beginning, and guess what? It's one-hit kills. Now, you can power up your ship with different letters that you might find on the screen, and it even has one power-up if you're not strong enough to fight that boss. Well, you could hit it and go back to an earlier part of the level to possibly power up and strengthen even farther. But they throw these power-ups at you pretty much non-stop, so you should be strong enough by the time you get to the boss. But you never are, because like I said, it's one-hit kills, and these bosses are freaking tough, and you never get so OP that the whole game is a piece of cake. Meaning that if you really want a great challenge for your vertical shoot-em-ups, this is your chance to prove yourself. Number 7, Mechanize Attack. This is very similar to Operation Wolf. In the arcade, you even had a freaking Uzi that you could mow down your opponents with, and this is a very faithful home conversion. It's even one of the very few light gun games for the Nintendo, but this style really doesn't fit a light gun very well, as you have to tap the button so stinking fast, you'll probably have a seizure before you even clear the very first level. And one of my very favorite parts about this game is this huge fight you have with a freaking battleship that gets followed up immediately by a gun down with a helicopter. And then you start up the next mission where you fight guys that turn into freaking robots. Yeah, this is a straight-on Terminator situation that you're in. And there's even branching paths in this game. However, this is also a very hard game because there's so many things shooting at you at once. Well, your life is going to continuously drain down, meaning you just have enough life to clear a level before you finally get taken out and do your best Darth Vader impersonation. No! Number 6, Quarry Warriors III, The Rescue. Jumping into a war zone with no weapons sounds like a really bad idea, unless all of your enemies also have no weapons. Luckily, you're pretty good at beating up people with your fists and feet, because those are the only two weapons you have, at least from the very start of the game. And when you reach the very first boss, a giant freaking tank, well then you will pull out your machine gun in order to take on this beast. And then you go into the very next level where you just punch everyone again. Now you do have a life bar here, but most of the time you're going to die from projectiles like other people finally shooting you, or maybe even throwing a grenade to take you out. Occasionally there'll even be some people throwing their own people at you. Like that makes any sense whatsoever. Luckily there's also infinite continues here, meaning that you'll probably play through this entire game on your very first try. And then later there's even an underwater level where you get to see that battleship that you blew up from Mechanize Attack. I just love these little Easter eggs here, and they're scattered throughout. If you want something that you could beat really quickly that puts up absolutely no challenge, well then this game is clearly for you. Number 5, Iron Tank. This is one of the hardest NES games. You have your machine gun, which is good at killing these little guys, but you could also run them over. And you also have your cannon that can be powered up with different weapons that you can pick up along the game, but you have to manage them wisely, saving them for huge boss battles against other tanks or huge bases. You could also rescue some people and then find super weapons around the corner, which are great for these huge bases and boss battles. Now, moving quickly is something you're going to want to do, but you're also going to want to take out every single enemy along the way because you are always vulnerable to attack. So learning how to move your turret around and fire on your enemies is half the game. Managing your resources is the other half, and this is a pretty long one at that. But luckily there is a password system, and they don't make the passwords too freaking crazy, meaning that you could actually figure them out and write them down really quick. And your codename is Iron Snake, so you better believe there'll be plenty of radio chatter where they call you out. Number 4, P.O.W, or also known as Prisoner of War. You escape from your jail cell with just a little bit of help of some dynamite, and now you're in a side-scrolling beat-em-up game very similar to Double Dragon. Most of the time you'll just be using your fists and your feet, but you can enter huts that will give you some power-ups. And you could even steal knives from people that drop them, and some machine guns too. But most of the time, it's just your fists against the enemy. So you better use them right. fight. And you do have some few moves up your sleeves, including a little backhand punch for anyone who decides to sneak up behind you, and occasionally you'll even fight massive bosses like a helicopter that continuously swarms you with enemies. Dying here sends you back pretty darn far, so you better be willing to replay levels again and again, but this one is a very faithful reimagining of the arcade game and is certainly a game worth playing. Number 3, Guerrilla War. This is very similar to the first Quarry Warriors game, except for the fact that it's actually really good. Now you have your machine gun to mow down enemies, and grenades to open up paths for you and also blow the crap out of enemies. You have to run around and collect some prisoners of war here, and you could jump in your iron tank, which this time around moves much quicker, and you could even jump out of when it's gonna explode because it took way too much damage. And there's even infinite continues here too, so you're probably going to blow through the whole game the very first time you play it. But you'll probably be playing it again and again because it's really fun. There's also a really interesting minecart section here where you save POWs with a lasso. It seems like this would kill them, and it's really weird how when you hit a corner, it just slowly inches and changes direction. That's kind of fun. And hey, there's that battleship again. You better believe SNK love their battleships, and this is one of the best war games for the Nintendo, even if it is one of the easiest. Number 2, we have Baseball Stars. If you played a typical baseball game on the NES, well, you know what you're getting into. With fastballs, curveballs, and no professional teams here, these are all made-up ones, which means that there's even going to be an all-woman team full of women that can't play baseball to save their stinking lives. And there even is some better teams with massive sluggers that can hit home runs nearly every single time, so you really have to watch out for these beasts. And it's a completely serviceable baseball game. But one that I like just a little bit more is Little League Baseball Championship Series, as I live in the Little League area. And matter of fact, last year I caught a game and I only had to drive 2 minutes to the stadium to watch it. So I gotta say, nowhere in this area is there any Little League fields that look anywhere near like they do here in this game, and they're not jam-packed full of crowded people like they show in the audience here. No, it's mostly just people sporadically throughout, and this is a much easier baseball title. And I gotta say, Team Hawaii did not have this many fat people on it. Matter of fact, if you ever look at Team Hawaii, there is no overweight people whatsoever. And when you hit home runs, I never seen busty cheerleaders cheer on your people. So yeah, this is a kind of weird, but it is probably the best baseball game for the NES, and it's definitely the best Little League baseball game, and that's coming from someone that really knows his Little League baseball. Number 1, Crystalis. In 1997, there was an apocalyptic event. Now, 100 years later, you wake up from your hibernation inside of this computer, and you happen to be in the right town because someone gives you $100 just for talking to him, and another guy gives you a sword, the magical Sword of Wind, that can destroy barriers. It's not too long before you get the Sword of Fire to destroy ice barriers, and there's lots of enemies here. There's even a battery backup here, so you could save your game and come back to it whenever you want, assuming that battery isn't freaking dead, which chances are it is. You'll even learn some telepathy that lets you talk to animals, so it won't be very long before you're riding dolphins and moving from town to town to save the day. You'll even repay the guy that gave you that $100 back by saving his entire village from an evil slaver that has them working in the mines up in the mountains, or at the very least just keeps them imprisoned here and keeps them moving and walking around kind of weirdly. Yeah, this is certainly one of the best games ever made, and it's one that you you have to experience, because it really is that good. And most people that played it will probably say the same thing. But of course, that's just my opinion, and apparently everyone else's. So, thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and when I first started putting together this list, it's because I just remember all of the SNK games for the NES being terrific. And now that I played through all of them, well, yeah, they're not as good as I originally thought. I probably would have put Iron Tank higher on this list, but I got all of my ratings from GameFAQs.com, and I rate it depending on what the collective knowledge of the internet had. And everyone really likes Crystalis, including myself. Yeah, it really is one of the best games ever made, so please give that one a try. And if you want me to cover different video game developers on different systems, well, then give me plenty of ideas, because I could really use them, because I plan on doing this for many years to come. So until later, I will see you again, guys.